The flickering candlelight flowed across the carefully laid table, crystal glasses polished to a shine flanking the fine china. A bouquet of her favorite leaves perfumed the air, their hay scent mixing with the aroma of the rosemary-crusted lamb roasting in the oven. It was our 10th anniversary. A milestone I'd envisioned celebrating with joy, not the gaping hollow that currently resided in my chest. I checked my watch for the 10th time in as many minutes, 8:17 p.m. She was late again. Lately, late had become the norm, rushed off with flimsy excuses about work commitments and unexpected meetings justifications. I'd initially accepted, blinded by love and trust. But the whispers, the furtive glances, the lingering aroma of unknown cologne, clinging to her clothes, they all painted a different picture I desperately tried to ignore. The key finally rattled in the lock and the door swung open. Amelia stepped inside, her smile wavering as she took up the scene. "Wow," she breathed, her voice laced with surprise. "What's all this? Happy anniversary?" I said, my voice carefully neutral. I watched her eyes scan the table, lingering a bit too long on the two place settings. The blood drained from her face, leaving her looking pale and ghostly in the warm candlelight. "Oh," she stammered, her eyes darting toward the closed dining room door. I didn't realize. "What, Amelia?" I asked, my voice hardening before she could answer. The dining room door swung open and Paxton walked out. Paxton, her colleague Paxton, whose cologne I'd smelled on her scarf. He looked disheveled. His tie loosened his face, a mixture of perplexity and dawning terror. Amelia's carefully built facade crumbled. "Daniel." "I can explain what I said," my voice dangerously low. "Explain how you could do this to me." "It simply happened," she whispered here. Yes, begging. "Happened." I chuckled. A hard, hollow sound, like a car crash. Like a sudden shower. "Infidelity doesn't just happen, Amelia. It's a choice. A series of choices, actually choices you made. While I was at home planning this pathetic attempt at a romantic dinner, it turned to Paxton, who was shifting uncomfortably from foot to foot. "And you," I said, my voice dripping with contempt. "You knew she was married. You knew what you were doing," Paxton stammered. Something about not knowing the full extent of our relationship. A pathetic lie that further increased my wrath. I stepped toward him, my fists clenched. "Get out!" I growled, my voice low and menacing. He didn't need to tell him. Twice he practically scrambled out of the apartment, casting a terrified glance back at Amelia before disappearing into the night. I turned back to Amelia, who was standing frozen, her eyes wide with fear. The carefully arranged, romantic setting now felt like a macabre joke. The lies teased us with their cloying sweetness, the flickering candles casting long, distorted shadows on the walls. "You lied to me," I said. My voice trembled, with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. "You betrayed me, you destroyed everything we built together." Tears streamed down her face, but I felt no pity. Only a cold, empty ache where my love for her used to be. I'm sorry," she sobbed. "Sorry doesn't cut it, Amelia," I replied, my voice flat. Not even near. I walked over to the stereo and hit play. The first notes of our wedding song filled the air, a cruel reminder of the vows we'd made, the promises she'd broken. I watched as her face contorted in pain, the music twisting the knife deeper into the wound. "This was our song," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "The song we danced to as husband and wife. The song that symbolized our love, our commitment, and you desecrated it." I picked up the framed photo from the mantelpiece, our smiling faces staring back at us from our wedding day. I held it out to her. "Do you remember this day, Amelia?" I said, my voice strangled with emotion. "Do you remember the vows we made?" She nodded, her sobs wrenching her body. I slammed the frame against the wall, the glass shattering into a million pieces. "Just like our marriage, get out," I shouted, my voice empty of any emotion. "Just get out." She didn't argue. She took up her purse, her hands quivering, and went out the door, leaving me standing alone amidst the ruins of our shattered lives. The next few weeks were a jumble, Of anger, grief, and disbelief, I barely ate, barely slept. I moved through life in a daze, the world around me. Seeming muted and unreal, I threw myself into work, using it as a distraction from the constant ache in my chest I started seeing. A therapist trying to piece myself back together. Then one day I received an email. It was from Paxton's wife, Nora. She'd found out about the affair, about the carefully orchestrated anniversary dinner, about everything. She was devastated, heartbroken, furious, and she wanted revenge. We met for coffee, two strangers united by a common betrayal. We chatted for hours, sharing our experiences, our pain, our fury, and as we talked, a plan began to develop. Pax was a rising star in the financial world, a man with a carefully built image of success and integrity. Nora had access to his computer, his phone, his secrets. We worked together, diligently gathering evidence of his shady transactions, his illicit affairs, his carefully constructed lies. We contacted his company anonymously, tipping them off about his fraudulent activities. We leaked information to the press exposing his double life. We watched with grim satisfaction as his world crumbled around him. He lost his job, his reputation, his wife. He became a pariah, ostracized by the very people who had once lauded him. Amelia too faced the consequences of her deeds. The whispers followed her, the judging eyes, the hushed conversations. She lost friends, respect, her sense of self. She tried to contact me to apologize, to explain, but I refused to engage. The damage was done, irreparable. My revenge wasn't about inflicting pain. Not solely. It was about reclaiming my power, about taking back control of my life. It was about showing them and myself that I wouldn't be broken by their betrayal. Took time, but I eventually started to heal. I started to rebuild my life. Brick by agonizing brick. I learned to trust again, to love again. I found happiness not in great gestures and flamboyant demonstrations of affection, but in the tiny, quiet moments of genuine connection. I learned that true love wasn't about fairy tales and romantic dinners, but about honesty, respect, and unwavering loyalty. And as for Amelia and Paxton, I never saw them again. They became ghosts of the past, reminders of a painful chapter in my life. But they also became a catalyst for change.